And in the U.S. stock futures were lower today following a massive rally on Wednesday. Earlier on, the Dow were down 141 points, while futures on the S&P and Nasdaq also pointed to declines. The moves came amid a roller coaster week for stocks on Wall Street, which saw the 30-stock Dow swing in 1,000 points or higher. And that's 2 times within 3 days. Following the Wednesday surge, the 3 major averages stateside moved out of correction territory, meaning they are now less than 10% down from their 52-week highs. A series of factors have been driving investor sentiment, ranging from developments around the coronavirus outbreak that continue to spread globally to former Vice President Joe Biden's major wins during Super Tuesday. And the UK has seen its biggest day-on-day increase in coronavirus cases, bringing the total number to 87. Let's cross over now to our London studio, where Juliana Olayinka is standing by to tell us more about this. Good afternoon, Juliana. Now, when you spoke to Chime earlier, you mentioned that the Chief Medical Officer for England was briefing members of Parliament on the coronavirus pandemic. What sound bites are you getting from that briefing?
Good afternoon, Bissy. Well, the coronavirus epidemic, which is what some people are calling, is really dominating a government agenda at the moment. It's kind of moved on from the discussion that took place this morning in front of the Select Committee chair people between the Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty, and our former Health Secretary. Now, what I've heard is that Prime Minister Boris Johnson had a meeting with Andrew Bailey. He is the successor of the outgoing Bank of England Governor, Mark Carney, and they were joined in that meeting by Rishi Sunak, who is the new Chancellor of the Exchequer. Of course, we've got a budget to be announced next Wednesday, and all attention seems to be now, or all pointers are seeing that there's going to be a lot of money put towards businesses who try to cope with their staff not coming in. Of course, we can see what happened with Flybe just a couple of hours ago, that some companies just purely cannot cope with the outbreak. At the moment as well, there are a lot of toing and froing. It seems to be that what the NHS is saying is slightly different than what we're hearing from government ministers. Just as I came into the studio, Matt Hancock, who's the Health Secretary, he was actually speaking with some senior business leaders in the city, just asking them what they can do, trying to reassure them. Overnight, Sony and Nike, they shut down their headquarters in London, and they're sending in people for a deep clean. And so it's all going on at the moment. We know that there are 90 confirmed cases in Britain, and health officials are saying it is more than likely that it will drastically increase.
Well, but what are the intraday numbers saying, and how are they reacting to all of these news?
Well, the FTSE is seeing a triple-digit fall at the moment, and that's really because the businesses that have updated their reports this morning are saying that COVID-19 is drastically affecting them. We had ITV. ITV is a huge commercial station here, and they said this morning that they're struggling with advertisers for cruise ships and package holidays, which is really now the time when they would be trying to get consumers. They're just not buying the advertising. Their shares were down 5.5%, one of the biggest fallers this morning. The All Shares down 1.84% at intraday. The FTSE 100 is down 1.54%, and the FTSE 250 is down 1.89%. Because of that, the pound is up on the dollar by 1.29%, up on the euro by 0.05%, and slightly down on the Japanese yen by 0.30%.
All right, Juliana, I know you mentioned Flybe earlier on, but tell us, are there more updates on that?
Unfortunately, there aren't. What we've heard from the government is that they're asking local flights and local airports not to increase the prices for anybody who's left stranded. And thousands of people have been left stranded overnight. Flybe collapsed at about 3 a.m. in the morning. And if not for the fact that we were dealing with this global emergency of COVID-19, that would really be dominating headlines here in the UK, because Prime Minister Boris Johnson will have a lot of questions that that he needs to answer. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration, particularly from opposition party members, and of course over 2,000 staff that Flybe had. They were their employees. Now, one of the main issues that we have is, of course, they got a government bailout just a couple of months ago, and there are questions to ask as if, was this bailout just enough? Should the government have let it fall when it did? Of course, Flybe is blaming COVID-19 and the lack of passengers that were booking flights, but they did have historical issues. They were bailed out in 2018 by a consortium, again in 2019 by shareholders, but alas, they've gone under due to the coronavirus. So there are serious issues at play here, but it's one step at a time, and the first big step for the government at the moment is trying to react in a sensible way to coronavirus, which is really affecting the business and the global economy at the moment.
Thank you, Juliana. Please stay safe out there.
Thank you, Bissy.